This right here, it's the new A9 Mark III. Global shutter.
Get the speaker box loud, hitting that stuff till you hearing that sound.
I think Sony just invented the next generation of cameras, not just for photography, but video also. I'm not much of a photographer, but this is clearly the next evolution of photography. No other camera seems to compare right now. You have 120 frames per second, blackout free, at 1/80,000th of a second. It has this really cool, interesting button in the front where you could be taking photos at like, let's say 30 frames per second of some like action shot. And then when the action gets wild, you can press the speed boost button on the front and all of a sudden you're taking 120 frames per second and it doesn't even seem like you took any photos because there's no like, take the photo, black screen, and then back to the screen. And then, like none of that, it just happens. You just press the button and you're like, did I do anything? Yeah, you took 120 photos per second. It's insane. The data management gets a little crazy too. Quick interruption, Black Friday sale is on, 50% off of everything on Human Video Co. Everything from our LUTs to the graphics packs to the motion titles, everything is 50% off. Make sure and go check that out. And if you didn't see, we're giving away a whole bunch of cameras and money. Well, you probably don't want this money, but we're doing the Human Film Fest. Go and check out all the details. We want to see your videos so that we can give you free stuff and money. Okay, back to the video. Black Friday sale, 50% off. Okay. Make sure to check it out. Also, pre-capture. So we've had this in video before where it's kind of like caching the last second. So when you hit record, it's actually capturing the last little bit. Now we get that in photos also. So you could, be waiting for like a bird to take off and start flying. And instead of like trying to keep taking photos, you just wait until it starts flying and then snap your photo and you got it in 120 frames per second. Every other camera for photos just seems kind of boring compared to this. Did I mention it has the perfect flip LCD screen also? Thank you. And then of course, the big new feature. This is the first global shutter full frame camera, which is insane, but also does it matter? To me, it's both the start of a new generation of cameras, but also people are gonna be like, I don't get it. Do I need this? First, let's talk about what is global shutter. Well, typically, digital sensors have been rolling shutter, which means it's literally scanning through the sensor every time it takes one frame. And it takes a little bit of time to do that. So the bottom is delayed from the top because it's going through. And so you took that first line of the sensor at exactly 9 p.m., but then the end of it was like 5 milliseconds past 9 p.m. It's not the exact same freeze frame of time. And if your camera isn't powerful enough and it takes a little bit longer to go through one frame, that's where you get this crazy rolling shutter warpy effect, and it's really nasty. Not to mention you get like, if you see a strobe of light, you get like these weird bars because it only captured it on the first few lines and then all of a sudden it didn't capture it anymore because the strobe is so quick. But a lot of cameras nowadays have very little delay, so it means you're not gonna even really notice the rolling shutter unless you're taking pictures or video of a flashing light or something really fast moving like a propeller. Global shutter scans the whole sensor all at once. So it is literally the exact same freeze frame of time from top to bottom, the whole sensor. It was actually super jarring at first seeing the strobes go off and you see it flash properly the whole frame at once instead of this like weird nasty like hitting the top or the bottom. It just doesn't look good. To me, this is kind of like the equivalent of having a car with tires that are just a little bit bumpy. They're a little bit rumbly, but you kind of get used to it. And now we have tires that are completely perfectly smooth. You don't feel any of the bumps. They just work like they were originally supposed to work. But like you kind of get used to that sort of bumpy ride, so Does it matter that much? Yes and no. It's like we got the product that works finally like the way it's supposed to, but that's always less exciting than getting like new crazy features. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely times where this is so much better. For example, if you're taking photos or video of flashing lights, or you're trying to get a photo, like a freeze frame of an airplane propeller. With global shutter, you can actually get it to look like one propeller, whereas with rolling shutter, it'll be like this weird, nasty mess. It doesn't look proper at all. Or with certain lights flickering a little bit, again, rolling shutter, that's gonna really mess you up. Global shutter, you're totally fine, because even if it's flickering, you're either getting kind of the less light or more light, but it's not gonna be like half and half, which is the worst. It's also how film cameras work, and that's why it's kind of like, it's the way it's supposed to be, and finally digital cameras have again caught up on one of these kind of aspects of filmmaking. Film cameras expose one frame all at once every single time, and this global shutter is exactly like that, which is kind of interesting because right away I was thinking like, oh, people love doing handheld on a film camera or global shutter. I was like, okay, let's test this. Is it gonna look just as good? Handheld video, global shutter. So I actually right away turned off the stabilization completely to see what it would look like. Okay, this is me vlogging with some stabilization on global shutter. Now let's try turning off the stabilization and vlog and see if that's a cool, like, I don't know, different look. Let's see. All right, no stabilization now. Just relying on global shutter to make it look good. No jello-y nastiness. Do you think this is gonna be good, or just jittery craziness?
You want to take a boat ride?
Let's go on a boat.
That's what I'm thinking about.
I think one of the reasons why film cameras look so cool is because it's global shutter. It's exposing the whole image at once. And so when you're doing like anything handheld, kind of jittery, crazy, it still looks really good. Whereas typically if you did this with any other camera basically of this size and shape and price, wouldn't look that good. So does it look good? Does it feel raw but not crazy jello-y and wild?
Yes.
Yes. And it's definitely better than with rolling shutter, but now the problem is that the camera is too light, and so it's kind of shaking and moving too much, so you need to add some weight to it. But this might actually be the best camera for handheld work right now. Global shutter, I think, is in the end a lot more subconscious than like, here's a great new feature for everyone to see. It's like, a lot of times when you see rolling shutter, you're like, something feels off, something looks off, I don't like this. And then when you see the global shutter, you're like, this looks really great. I don't know why, but this just looks right. One of the biggest downsides I'm seeing right now is that the base ISO appears to be ISO 2000. Now these are pre-production cameras, so I don't know if that's actually gonna be the base ISO. But right now, using ISO 2000, it's a little weird, jarring. Even this ND filter is just not enough, so I'm having to shoot at f4.5 instead of 2.8. Little things. What is this location?
This is unreal. Where did we just go? Like, all right, see ya.
Just keeps running forever. This is the kind of spot you need a one wheel. You need a one wheel ride through here. But this isn't just a photography camera. This is also perhaps the best Sony video camera too. I didn't do enough tests, but it's definitely promising. We get 4K up to 120 frames per second, no crops or anything like that. 4K up to 60 frames per second with 6K oversampling. I'm not sure exactly how this all works, but that's what they said. 8 stops of 5-axis stabilization, so IBIS, but no wobbles. Again, that's really nice. And the image looks really, really nice. I was a little skeptical, like maybe the global shutter is gonna affect other things. For example, dynamic range. They didn't really talk about it. I was like, oh, that's probably because it doesn't have very good dynamic range. But I'm not seeing any of that. It looks really, really nice. The colors look great. Even the low light just looks really good. Thanks, Jevin, for passing me this clip you took. Go and check out his channel. Really great guy. Had a lot of fun hanging out and filming. Yeah, even the low light kind of just looks like, you know, it's like grain versus like nasty noise. So that's great. This really feels like the flagship hybrid photo video camera for everybody. I'm not really seeing the downside. Maybe there's like battery life or something. so far, I have not seen the downsides, and I'm not sure if those are gonna come out at some point, or this is just the next generation of cameras that's absolutely insane. But I guess there is one big downside, and that is the price. It's $6,000. So it's a really expensive camera. Most people are not gonna be getting this camera. But for me, what's even more exciting is that this now marks like the point where things are gonna be different. Just like the 5D Mark II revolution, now we have this new technology, and the future cameras are gonna look even crazier. I feel like we've been in a bit of a lull in terms of technology. Cameras have been very similar, and now this feels like it's something totally new. Can't wait to have global shutter on everything soon. It's interesting how the global shutter then allows for a whole bunch of other things to happen at the same time. So it's not just the global shutter, it affects other things like that crazy high shutter speed for photos. All right, the Sony A9 Mark III. It's an insane camera. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys later. How do you guys like this lighting setup? Did it feel like it was super lit? I have this like softbox here and that little spotlight. Very interesting how at first I just had this softbox here and not this light. And right away, this feels like, oh, it's lit. It feels more like there's a source here. But then just adding this bright source, all of a sudden makes it feel like there is sunlight hitting me in the ground, and then it's lighting my face. Yeah, lighting is very interesting. All right, that's enough. All right, bye.